least we're planning for it. So there is multiple things happening. If we've been talking about retiring baby boomers, like how long have we been talking about that, Joel? For around
I
20
would
years.
imagine since like 2008 at least,
Yeah. Well, I
maybe
think what
more.
we're seeing too is like a declining birth rate, which is making it quite challenging. And also, when we look at the type of skills that we need, such as skilled trades, we just don't have any. And we're still underrepresented by women in this particular case. So I'm not surprised that in certain cases we are going to have a labor shortage. Even if you're talking to anyone in the market right now, you're getting definitely the vibe that it's really challenging. And I guess it's a tale of two different situations, because there is folks in that have no issues at all. They're quite in demand, and then there's the type of roles that are extremely challenging right now. But man, the baby boomers retiring, like when I saw this article, I'm like, didn't they retire like 15 years ago? We've been talking about it, like the onslaught of retirements that was going to happen. And I assume it did, because if you look at Gen X is starting to retire. And I'm Gen X, but I'm like on the younger phase of it, the older generation of Gen X, but not a big generation like the baby boomers are. What's your take here, Joel?
I think contrary I mean, I obviously think people who are baby boomers have been retiring, but I also think kind of going back to '08 when everything crashed, a lot of people lost a lot of money in their retirement, and that kind of kept them in the workforce. And I also think a lot of shout out to Asu too out there. Good to see you. I also think a lot of people like who used to working, it's like they retire, and then I think a lot of people just get bored in retirement, and then they come
Yeah.
back into work. And great example of this is, we just saw the Nike, Nike just ousted their CEO, and then they brought somebody back in. They brought in their old CEO who, was out of the game 4 years ago. So I
Yeah.
think sometimes like it's not like when you retire, it'll just lose, all your network. A lot of baby boomers, they still have the network and they hear of opportunities. They're on boards. They're still involved. So, um, obviously there are definitely people who have retired, but I think a lot of people quickly realize like, hey, this is kind of boring. I want to stay in the workforce. And then if you are experienced in that, you're in that situation where your 401k gets slashed, your retirement gets slashed. That's obviously going to keep you working. Um, and I experienced that a lot in 2011 when I got into the workforce. It was a really tough job market,
Yeah.
and a lot of that was it was just I just think baby boomers were hanging around in positions and not moving on. So yeah, I don't know, and I think like work has gotten easier, but I think over the last couple of years, like remote work did make work more accessible. And so, if all you need is a internet connection and access to Zoom to have a job, that can maybe keep people around as well. You don't have the strenuous nature of going to an office and all that type of stuff as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think the other factor here when we're looking at the situation we're in with skill mismatch is I'm going to put some fault on the boomer parents forcing their kids to go to university instead of looking at trade schools. And we've almost demonized not going to university and learning a trade, which
Oh
is
yeah.
where the biggest lack of skill is right now. So I'm going to blame the boomer parents forcing their kids to go to university, because that is a huge issue. And I think there's an issue, really, what they call the sit down jobs, which is what we do, really knowledge type work, and the standing up
I got a
work. And
standing desk, so that doesn't count.
it doesn't count. Yeah. I think that's where the biggest challenge. We don't have enough skill. And the other factor, I think the younger generation is, they're not working for the man as much, right? Like we have so many content creators doing their own thing, starting their own freelance type of gig. So it's going to be a weird time in the next 10 to 15 years. Obviously, in certain countries, they're really trying to replace or get new workers with immigration, which we're going to have to do in in pretty much every country. It's definitely challenging. We don't have enough people because we're not having as many babies as well.
Yeah, I think with a lot of these jobs, one thing I've noticed, like I remember talking to someone maybe a year and a half ago that ran like quality assurance for local.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Rise
Morning.
and shine. Clear your throats. Let's get the day going. And welcome to the HR Morning Show, the number one spot for all things HR all morning long. And we are part of Purple Acorn, the only online community for HR professionals, decision makers, and tech savvy individuals and entrepreneurs interested in the latest HR news and updates. So if you're hungry for more, after the episode, head over to purpleacorn.io and follow us on LinkedIn. And if you're watching us live right now, sound off in the comments. Joel's going to keep an eye on that. I'll try to do my best here, Danielle, too. When we're live every Tuesday morning on LinkedIn and YouTube, leave a comment if you're with us now. Get involved. And guess what? If you miss an episode, you can catch the replay on YouTube or take us with you on the go. Who doesn't want Joel, Danielle, and I in their ear all day
All
long?
the
Check
time.
out,
All day.
subscribe on Apple Music, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And we have a great show today. We have a lot to get into. We are back from Vegas, back from HR Tech. We're going to get into it, but let's start our day with a little hype from our friend George Rogers, the man with the badass Nike Air Max. Let's get to it.
Our Acorn is so unique. Oftentimes we see it as just one piece and not really understanding the full scope and the purpose of it. Inside of one acorn is hundreds more of acorns, and when you think about that and what that could be, most people just say it's a nut, right? It's nothing more of that. Then you look at it, and if you will, you can search acorn trees and look at the trees, and you realize the inside one thing is a countless amounts of other things. There's so much growth and development. There's power. There's life. And so I want to encourage you, when you think about acorns, don't look at it as just one thing. Look at it as there's more inside of that. There's more to come. There's more opportunities. There's more adventures. And so when you look at an acorn, it could just look like a nut. It could be a tree. It could be a forest.
Wow.
Our acorn is
Wow.
Could be a forest. Whoa.
I mean, first of all, George is the man. I had the pleasure on Wednesday night to sit next to him at dinner, at the Fountain Dinner, and we chopped it up. I love that dude. He is super interesting. He's funny. It was great. He is the man. And where's badass sneakers?
Sick, man. Sick. What was your highlight, Adam? Come on, I want to know. I missed out on this event.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
Vegas.
All right, I would be rude. Danielle, ladies first. Give us your kind of HR tech recap.
Well, it was my first HR Tech. So
Same.
walking into the expo hall was absolutely crazy. My jaw was on the floor. And I guess like that was one of the highlights, was just getting to meet a bunch of brands that I've known for so many years but have never met. Um, and I started a list of a bunch of like, what are the best handouts or the best freebies at
Swag, yeah, we did.
conferences.
Did you see
Yeah,
those peacocks? Those peacocks were pretty cool.
I did. I did. They were
So
cool. It didn't make
cool.
the list, but yeah. And then like yeah, just being with the team. It was super fun. You were missed,
You were
Joel.
missed. So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, let's talk about some things that we did that were fun. So first and foremost, big shout out to Higher Road and ERIN for bringing us out there. Higher Road, we kicked things off, and we did something pretty cool. I'm going to give a shout out to our man Evan here for helping with this idea, and it was pretty incredible. So on the first day, on Tuesday night, right? Tuesday night, the first night they call it day zero when the conference really opens up. When people were coming out of the expo center, we were set up outside of Libertine Social with our friends at Higher Road, and we were giving out beers, drinks,
That was
ciders,
fun.
non-alcoholic beers with koozies. We ended up how many? I think almost 1,000 koozies were given out, pause koozies. And our friends at Chat and Cheese, those guys over there, we partnered up. We were giving out so many drinks. People were chatting. I was shocked how hard it was, Joel, to give away a free beer.
Really? You're
Like,
just not fashionable anymore, or what?
I'm like, free beer. People are like, ugh. I'm like, well, do you want like a Buzz
A
free?
White Claw or something?
Do you
I
want
had a
claw?
cider. The ciders were good.
Ciders. Okay, nice.
That was pretty cool. So it was fun to partner with our homies Chad and Cheese. That was great. And then we kind of split up the next day. I mean, I did a ton of content on Wednesday with Higher Road, and we'll get to all that amazing content. John Fetterman, Lydia Wu, Matt O'Connor, some amazing folks, and we'll get to those podcasts in a few weeks. But Danielle, tell us about this high roller party that I did not
Ooh,
go to.
ooh, you missed out.
Well, I was at dinner with our friends at
We
Fountain.
we went to the high roller at the Link, which is that like Ferris wheel thing.
Yeah, the
And
The stink.
Yeah, yeah.
You got to stay at the link.
and and so we went about. It was probably like 25 of us. We all got in one of these little pods, and it was an open bar for about 30 minutes. Shout out to Mike Staffy who sponsored ERIN. And we got on, and it was just an open bar, and we went around, up and around. The views were insane. We had a blast. There were shots. A lot of stuff went down on that.
No
In that
beer
little
though.
pod, but
No
What
beer.
don't you know
what
what
happens in
happens?
Vegas
Stays in
stays in
Vegas unless we're
Vegas.
talking about it on the HR Morning Show. That
Yeah,
was cool. I miss that one. I mean, but it's a lot of divide and conquer in Vegas, Danielle, right? Like you were doing
Yep.
that. I was with our friends over at Fountain for an incredible dinner at Joe's Stone Crab. Shout out to Fountain.
so
Hope
good.
and the team over there. That was great. And then we met back up and we checked out the Smart Recruiters Speakeasy, Friends of Winston. That was cool.
That was super cool.
I ate a lot of those egg rolls. I ate a lot of egg rolls. I was
No, don't tell. No, the Smart Recruiter thing was really cool. They had a speakeasy both nights, so if you weren't there and you didn't know about it, I'm sorry. Maybe next time.
we'll leave
But
it at that.
I am a big fan of the more intimate, like smaller kind of events, because you're actually able to have conversations with people, and you don't get interrupted every 5 seconds. So
What
because everyone's
constitutes what's kind of like your number there? What's the ideal number for any of the brands
probably
out
like
there?
25.
Yeah.
25.
Yeah.
The intimate event, but you could also make small, like we did, Danielle, with the at our Smart Recruiters Happy Hour over at the S Bar at Mandalay Bay. That was cool. We found a little niche. We were chatting up some people over there in that little area. So you make small conversations, and also a power move at conferences is knowing when to also walk away from a conversation. Right, because you want to maximize your time to do it politely. If you feel that like you made the connection, or maybe there's no value, you're like, oh, I just gotta go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. The bathroom move works every time. It was fun.
From a true pro.
It is a true pro. And then on the last night, on Thursday night, we'll just leave it at that. When Danielle and I needed a vibe change, and that's what we did.
So let's talk about these red shoes too. Like, wasn't there some red shoes running around? Like, how did that go down? How'd that go down?
Talk of the town. Props to Evan and Mike. It was, you see a bunch. You see
is
these
that
red
White
shoes.
Evan we're talking about? White Evan.
White Evan. Yeah, we love White Evan, our friend.
Funkle Evan.
Yeah, they came home. Both the boys, they came home with new names from me. We have Evan, who's my funkle, and Adam, who's my bunkle. Because if you don't know, Adam has a little man bun.
It's getting bigger.
It's really funny. So,
ladies love it.
Yeah. He told us the whole story. So,
LL man bun.
and it was just Funkle and Bunkle. The last night out on the town, we had a time. But the red shoes were something else, because you see red shoes, they're pretty iconic, right? They're bright red. They bring your attention to them right away. But then you see another person walk by with red shoes, and you're like, wait, I didn't get the memo, and you're part. And then it was the Red Shoe Gang. We were all together at some point. So
it was cool.
It was interesting. It was cool.
Pictures.
Marketing genius.
Genius.
That's the thing. The thing you got to be able to do at these conferences, if you're a brand, you've got to create something memorable that people will talk about after the haze. Because I feel like as a conference haze, while you're in the midst of it, it's a blur. And so if you can come away remembering something, and it's got to be shareable online too. Red shoes is shareable.
Right.
And you have to create like a FOMO effect.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone wanted to be in the Red Shoe Gang. Was everyone invited to the Red Shoe Gang?
No. You've
got to be a referral.
So generally speaking, Vegas is a tough one. There's lots of distractions. There's lots of things to do versus other conferences when you're in a smaller town and you're a bit more focused and they're tighter. So find your tribe, get out there, network, say hello to people, make introductions. And for any of the brands out there, Joel's advice is spot on. Find ways to stand out, right? Like, how do you take a normal happy hour, which are let's call it what it is. A lot of companies are doing happy hour and make them a little bit more interesting. Or how do you create a low lift event like we did with the koozies for Higher Road and make it an attraction and put it in a great high traffic area to draw attention to it? That's how you do it. So overall, it was a success. Danielle and I are working through some Vegas haze in our lungs and chest over here, trying to feel a little bit better. But overall, it was a success. Thank you to all our sponsors here. Let's keep the show rolling.
Let's roll.
What do we got? What do we got? It is day one of HR Tech. I'm here on behalf of my show, the podcast, and our morning show, the HR Morning Show with Purple Acorn.
Go beer here.
We are here at the Roadies with Higher Road event at the Libertine Social Club. We have run out of beer. And tonight we're with Michael Stevens from Smart Recruiters. We're going to be learning how to make a alien elixir.
Good morning. John Baldino here. Super excited to be doing an Ask the HR Expert session.
Hey guys, ERIN here, HR Tech 24, excited to be here. Lots of people coming through.
I'm at HR Tech this week and I have the #1 tip for confidence that you need to know. Relationships are all about being curious, getting curious about the other person. Not just what they can do for you, but how you can help them.
Shout out to the HR Morning Show every Tuesday morning. Follow us and check out purpleacorn.io. All right.
That video really made me feel just like even worse.
It's
crying and
That was a pretty sick video.
It was FOMO-licious.
Well,
And
I'm
Made
still
me
in the
feel
Red Shoe
FOMO.
gang.
And the fit
I was
check,
there.
Danielle and I came styling. We brought the game to Vegas. We had to step it up.
We
a little
had
bit.
to.
But I don't know if you noticed my move on the last day. I always
Something.
kind of bring it down, and it's just t-shirt and jeans for me. I am done. trying.
Embarrassing.
And what? No, first of all, I'm styling. It's a high quality, all Saints shirt. I look sharp, pleased with my red sneakers. All right, let's get to it. It's time for headlines, and this is a good one too. Will there be a Great Resignation 2.0? And recruiting experts, Joel and myself, we're going to chime in on this one. This article is interesting too because it talks about a lot of factors with the resignation. Most predominantly here is this return to office situation. We take a look at Amazon 5 days a week back in 2025. There's studies out right now that are saying that a ton of employees are going to be quitting. Now, paraphrasing Joel here, are they actually going to quit? Are they going to quit without having a job lined up? Or are people going to be like, you know what? I don't need income. I'm just not going to the office anymore. So we're going to see what happens here. So again, I'm going to go back to what I said about two years ago, mid-pandemic. And I don't think it's a great resignation. I'm going to call it the great recalibration 2.0. Because what we're doing here is we're recalibrating. We're recalibrating on a lot of micro and macro economic fronts here. We're looking at interest rates. We have socio-political factors happening. We have an election. We have wars. We have uncertainty out there. So there's a lot going on. But when it comes down to what's happening here in the United States, as far as folks resigning, predominantly because they have to go back to work, I don't know about that.
Go back to work.
Go back to the office. Sorry, go back to the office.
Oh,
So
Yeah, that's offensive.
what's your take here?
Look, in order for that to be a great resignation, you got to have jobs, right? Because that was the
Right.
whole premise. It wasn't just resigning.
No, there
People
was
weren't just
something for them to
quitting
go to.
jobs.
There was something for them to go to.
Yeah.
They're not just like, quit it, set it and forget it. I'm
No.
just gonna live off the land. No.
You got to go to somewhere. So here, my prediction has always been the same. Right now, we are in a mindset, or a lot of companies are in the mindset of efficiency and cutting staff. So can we get more work done with less people? That's the mindset.
Mm.
Once that shifts into let's grow our headcount, once that starts to shift, then people will have jobs to go to, and that's where companies are going to see opportunity to, poach from Amazon or some of these other large companies that have forced people back to the office. That's, I think, when we would see the great resignation 2.0. But I don't to say like when that's going to happen. It's really hard to say, and I don't think it's going to be a quick swing. I actually think it's going to be probably that similar thing that happened between 2010 to 2019, like just steadily growth, the war for talent. We always used to hear about it.
The war.
We haven't heard as much about the war for talent recently, but that's what, ever since I've been in recruitment, that's how it's been. It's been hard to find people, get them to move. And obviously the last 2 years, it hasn't really been that hard. You've posted a job, you get a lot of people applying. So those are my thoughts. Danielle, what do you think?
I think that a lot of people are just staying put because they need job security and financial security right now. I mean, inflation's up. We're going into an election. Who knows what's going to happen? So I think it's just kind of a time to stay safe and to stay put. And once things kind of clear up and after the election, I think we're going to see a lot of resignations right before the holiday. A lot of people are going to be looking for new jobs, are already looking for new jobs. I'm having these conversations a lot within my own my own networks. So yeah, I'm excited to see how it shakes out. And if companies, I think the other thing is people are going to remember, and they do remember, which companies took kind of put their employees first and didn't make those Amazon type of decisions. And yeah, I think that's going to hurt a lot of the big behemoths that did that and are making decisions that are hurting people right now.
I'm a pretty cynical New Yorker over here, and I tend to, when it comes to a lot of the corporate stuff, think the worst of companies. And at first, when I saw this, I'm like, really, are companies using return to office to do a reduction in force and not have to pay people? And I thought about it for a minute. I'm like, well, that sounds pretty crappy. And you know what? I think it's true at this point. I'm seeing it happen. I think Amazon is trying to reduce the force.
Yeah.
And it's not cool. I think that companies really are going to shoot themselves in the foot here. They're going to lose great talent. And the other problem is they're going to cause, future attrition, because if you're reducing the the workforce, there's going to be more workload on other employees. They're going to be doing 2-3 times the amount of work, and you're going to lose them also. So again, I'm going to go back to calibration here. So I think we've beaten this one to death, and let's keep it going. Joel, what are you talking about today?
All right. Personality hires, pros, cons, and 4 critical keys. So this article is all about, hiring people just purely based on their personality, and like whether or not they're going to bring energy to the office, right? Like they'll be the ones to get the happy hour started. They'll be the ones to bring excitement into the office. And then looking at like, what are the things you got to think about? Obviously, you've got to still think about like, can they do the job? You've got to think like, is this ultimately going to be a wise business decision? But what I thought was interesting is in the whole time I've been in recruitment, I cannot really remember ever doing a personality hire or being tasked with that.
That's why you and I are unhireable. We are unhireable.
No, I'm saying like I've never worked a search
yourself.
where the hiring manager said, "Hey, forget the experience, forget the accomplishments. We're just looking for a good personality." So, have you seen this, Adam, Danielle?
Let's roll this up a minute, because I think this all kind of rolls into the F word, which I hate. I've talked about it ad nauseum. Is the F word in recruiting, which is fit. I hate culture fit, and a lot of companies fall into this, and they say they don't, but it's one of the worst biases out there. Like bias, it's one of the worst biases in recruiting, and I see it all day long. All day. A hiring manager just doesn't like the person. Now, some people are unlikable. We know this, right? We work with these people. We know these people, even our friends and family, right? And there's a balance between someone who's a good person and like just there's an energy, but they have the skills, they have everything you need. That's why you need to have multiple people interview before you make that decision. So I think companies really need to be mindful. And then we also get into neurodiversity. You mentioned something before, Joel. You said, we need someone to come in and start the happy hour. Well, is that person's title director of events and marketing? Or they're a programmer and you're expecting them to do it, right? So I think you have to be mindful about where someone falls on the introvert extrovert spectrum, and how important is that, and do you really need that, and is there a bias against it?
Yep. No, I 100% agree.
There's this concept that I came across when I was working more in like the workplace world, which is there's a type E employee. And the type E is like the extrovert, the person who is exceptional at their job, but also people tend to go to, if they are new to the organization, they don't know anyone. They're the type of person who, naturally is like kind of this magnetic personality. And they also tend to be one of those like nodes, those like relational intelligence maps where you could kind of understand the organization.
Right.
So they tend to be one of the bigger nodes within those maps. And the thing that ends up happening is a lot of the time they get burnt out. And so that's another consideration here. I think I don't think that people necessarily make hires based on personality. But I think when you are like personality alone. But I'm saying when you're thinking and considering which candidate do I want to, bring in and actually hire, I think it comes down to, well, what does the organization need right now? Do we need someone who is more of a connector and who can show up and like be a friendly face, or do we want someone who's just like a workhorse and who's going to just get the job
That's a
done?
fair point. I think that's a fair take on that. Joel, thoughts?
Look, I think to Adam's point too, I've seen it a lot where you'll hear things like, yeah, I could see myself getting a beer with that person, or like particularly one of the industries I worked in was
stuck in the airport. That's a good one.
Yeah. Like, and
thank God we weren't stuck in the airport.
And a lot of times I do think that, to your point too, Danielle, like it isn't just alone on personality that people are making decisions.
Can we fix that, by the way? The whole name thing. Sorry, I'm rude. I'm interrupting.
But like I do think that like people are still making decisions like this. I just think if you're like to Daniel, to your point, like you got to know overall in your organization if this is what's needed, and I think you got to make it clear that somehow to if you're hiring someone like this, like, hey, we're bringing you in for this purpose as well, and maybe compensate people as well. I do see people getting burned out. Like if you're hired for a job and then suddenly you're expected to like be the person who, like I had this example one time. I had somebody told me, you're great like when you show up and you're in a good mood, but then when you're in a bad mood, like you kind of bring the whole team down. And I'm like, well, I'm not managing the team. I'm not a leader. And they're like, well, no, you are a leader. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not got the title of leader. So it's not actually my responsibility. Yeah. And so I think if you're dealing with someone like that, you got to think about how you position them. Like I am definitely that type of person where like, if I'm on a Zoom meeting and I'm not in a good mood, everybody's going to feel it. Flip side, if I'm on a really good mood and I'm up, everybody feeling it too. So I think you got to be careful how you manage those situations. And maybe that's coaching that person on like, hey, it actually is important how you show up as well.
I think on the flip side as a candidate, one time I was in an interview and I kind of was getting the sense that I wasn't going to get the job because I didn't have like the technical background. And so I flat out asked the interviewer, I was like, listen, I think I'd be a great fit for this job. Let me ask you a question. Would you rather hire someone who has the technical background and experience that you're looking for, but does not have a personality that is, that brings people in, that like you could do customer facing stuff and that has like kind of no personality at all? Or would you rather hire someone who's willing to learn the technical, but has all of those like really great capabilities and personality traits that you can't necessarily teach someone?
How'd that work out?
And she goes, oh, that's a fantastic question. Probably the latter. And AKA me. And then I didn't get the job. But She said it was a
So
great
what's the point?
question. Well, the point is, I think you could, as a candidate, you could ask questions like that. You don't be afraid to ask questions like that to really understand what type of hire people are
Yeah.
going for.
Although I will say, in a decade of experience, the amount of times people don't actually know what they're looking to hire will blow your mind.
Of course, it's like a calibration. So let's
That's
keep
also
it.
why
Let's
I
move on.
asked
Let's
it.
move on.
Let's move on. Danielle, what are you
move on.
talking? What are you talking about today?
All right. My headline is, can employees be fired for gossiping at work?
It should be.
Now, okay. In my opinion, there's two types of gossip, okay?
Here we go.
Yeah.
There's gossip that's more like, oh, so and so got fired, like I'm scared that's going to happen to me.
Did she get
What if
Botox?
Wow.
Never. And I think there's like this like kind of gossiping because you're afraid something's going to happen to you, or that like, something's going to affect you in some way. And then there's the gossiping of like low level, we like to call it in Judaism lashon hara, which is, in my opinion, if something is against religion, or like it's a rule in religion, it's one of the 10 commandments, I think that you probably shouldn't be doing it at work, right? Like just like you shouldn't be, lying and stealing and cheating, you also shouldn't be gossiping.
Right.
And that's my hot take. What do you guys think?
Is it? But what makes it a fireable offense? And what's that
That's a good
threshold?
question.
What's the threshold? Is it talking smack about somebody openly and it's defaming their character and it's not true, or if like you're calling someone out or you're talking about something and it is true? Like,
look, I think my thought is you could be fired for anything at work,
which I've been fired for.
Like you can be fired, and I think if you're, this is why I do a lot of videos around like I genuinely do not think that you can trust everybody you work with, and so therefore you just need to be smart about what you say, who you say it about. You don't know if there's existing relationships there. You don't know if it's going to get back to people. So in general, like. I think just gossip in general, if you would not say something in front of someone's face, don't say it at work. If you need to vent somewhere else, if you need to go to like, some like Reddit forum and go anonymous and say something, fine. But I think you could be careful. And I definitely think you could get fired for this, no doubt, especially if you were gossiping about somebody that's got a relationship with the manager or the person who's making that decision, for sure. So I think you got to watch what's coming out of your mouth, especially if you're like in an emotional place or somebody burns you. That's my thought.
The article, it basically says, similar to, we got a comment before about like the company policy. It states someone was let go for willful breach of company policies and counterproductive behavior. So the company policy was basically that there's a no gossip policy, and that if it's something that is an obvious distraction and impedes your coworkers' ability to effectively do their job, then that's a fireable offense.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, that's fair, but it's like, how do you measure that? It sounds super subjective. That sounds like one of those policies, like when they put you on a PIP and it's like, hey, improve productivity. How are you doing this? Well, it'll be up to whoever makes those decisions.
No, you're out the door.
That corporate speak. I love
corporate.
They're
slow playing your firing there. You know what? This could go either way. I mean, listen, it happens. People talk all day long. I mean, back channel. You have to be careful though. Now in this remote world of slacking and talking shit when you're slacking, because that's on company technology,
or team,
all
right?
reportable,
Teams,
right?
Whatever,
right? Whatever you're doing, like say, just stick to WhatsApp, right?
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that they're like they have the install that software to track your
Well, and you got to think like
Smack
it's
talker.
Same with hiring, right? We were just talking about this. Like people hire people based on like who they like, whether or not they like them. Regardless of what people say, a lot of hiring managers are still operating like that. Like, oh, I'd love to have this person on team. It's the same thing with this. Like, someone doesn't like you, man. You're somebody who's making those decisions. It's hard.
It is hard. So let's move on to people we like, and it's time for Clark.
I'm on stage. Appreciate it. What Hot 100 with Clark with me. Appreciate it, Adam. Him. Yes. Thank you. What are we talking about today? The long game. So, at the Digital Recruiter, the company I founded, it's a coaching program. I get people to come in. They want to learn about automation, content, building a personal brand, and one of the first things I hear in the first few weeks, like they're so excited to get started, and like I'm impatient. I just can't wait for it to work without realizing it already is working. When you have the system and you get your content in place, and you have the right strategy. And I want to talk about playing the long game. And in the rat race of recruiting, everything can be so short term. People neglect what just some consistent daily efforts can do over the course of the year, few years. Uh, for example, with LinkedIn outreach in 2020, I think I've mentioned this a couple times before. I had about 150 connections, and now on LinkedIn, now I'm over 16,000, like 20,000 followers. Nothing crazy, especially for all our co-hosts here today that have way more followers than I do. I'm just a regular person. I'm not Joel or Adam or Danielle here. Uh, I don't know about that. You guys are LinkedIn superstars. And so you can make, with certain automation tools, 200 connection requests a week, 800 a month. If you connect at an average of 20%, that could be 2,000 new connections a year. Plus, you could also get some inbound, right? If you get, some content going. So if you're, you could be targeting hiring managers for an agency. If you're internal, that could be the candidate pool for your company. You could potentially eliminate job boards, right? Or again, more candidates if you're an agency recruiter. Second degree connections turn to first, third turn into second, right? People then get into your third degree connection. So you can really leverage tools like Sales Navigator that are a lot cheaper than Recruiter. With content, 2 posts a week will be 100 posts for the year. You'll be in the top 1% of LinkedIn creators. I had a little New York accent like Adam there for a second. And it doesn't have to be crazy. You'll get this, 6-figure impressions. You'll create that ecosystem, content that's relevant to your audience. So you could have 100 plus posts on your profile, make some of those feature 2,000 new connections. If you're in your target market, that's going to build that ecosystem that you need. That'll be the network, whether you're internal, external, to really get your job done at a high level, really systemize that top of funnel sourcing. So you have more time for personalized BED or getting those hiring managers on board and actually getting them to follow your interview process, right? You can filter out more through the inbox versus wasting time on phone calls because you don't feel the pressure to talk to everyone that you get because you're only getting a handful of people in your inbox having conversations with you. So if you systemize that top of funnel, if you play that long game, especially on LinkedIn, you can get a lot done in a year, 3 years, or 5 years. So that's what.
Yeah. The inbox and connections is always an interesting one for me because I have I'm kind of overdue to do a post on this one. My connection strategy. I would say inbound, I maybe accept 15-20% of inbound requests. I spend once a week. I usually go through my requests. It usually piles up to about, I think last week after Vegas it was like 150. Yeah, and I do not accept irrelevant requests. We only have 30,000 connections, and people have this misnomer, and all the gurus out there like send as many connection requests as possible because those turn into followers. That is a terrible business idea. You want to be intentional with your connections. Now, some people will argue, well, you don't know if that person is going to be. I have a good sense after being on this platform for 17 years if someone's going to be a valuable connection, either as a candidate, a conduit, or a client, right? Those three things.
Do you message everybody that sends you a connection request?
Depends on things. So if I'm doing outbound myself and I'm going out for business development or for candidate recruitment, 90% of the time I'm going to have a very short message attached to it. I've also tested people that I know, and if I kind of met them before, they know we've connected, they know who I am. I'm not going to personalize it. But people really need to be mindful about. Listen, I'm already probably it's close to 26,000 connections. I need to spend a full week and clear that shit out.
What I'm saying is that when people send you a connection request,
right,
do you send them a message back?
If I'm accepting it,
nope. If you're like you get a message,
no, I just X the crap out of it. But I don't have time for that. Ain't got time for that.
Really interesting.
Why?
What do you do?
I got a message that just says, "Hey, thanks for connecting," and then I say, "Check out my other resources," and I send them to my link tree. So
but you say thanks for connecting, but you don't connect with them.
Well, then some people will be like, "Well, you didn't connect with me," and I go, "Well, it's a $30,000 cap. 30,000 cap. It's a 30,000 cap, but we can still DM, so we're essentially connected."
That is.
I usually if I'm interested in the person for a business reason, I ask them like, what inspired you to connect with me?
Exactly.
I've used that before too. I said, what drew you to my profile, something like that.
Yeah.
Because I want to engage with them. And you could also tell,
I
guys, when we talk about automation, Clark, let's talk about that for a second. I could tell really quickly if it's an automated message within the outreach.
Yeah, which is why I say if
Hey,
you're doing
great
business
to see your
development,
success at NHP Talent Group.
Yeah, this
You're looking
one
for more
says,
clients?
this one says, love seeing the work your team produces. Would love to keep connected
Yeah.
and see
Team
what you're
01.
up to. Okay, how much, dude? You don't love me that much. You've said love twice in the first message. Like,
All right.
But imagine
Well-
that person had a profile laid out in their about section, their headline, without a connection message. This is why I teach people with business development: don't bother automating with a connection message because you're going to sound exactly like that. They're in my inbox too. I think I have 300 pending invitations. Let your profile be the connection message.
Exactly.
You want to draw people in that way and let the prospect decide if you're relevant or not. If you've done your work with the profile and the targeting, it should be an automatic yes, and you should bump that
Right.
up significantly. That
There you
connection request, and build the ecosystem not just through outreach but through content. Because if you rely on automation only without some marketing and some content, especially for business development on LinkedIn, good luck.
And that is the
Content is
hot take.
queen.
Content is queen. So Clark, we want to thank you. Everyone, check out Digital
Thank you.
Recruiter. Check out Clark with us every Tuesday morning for his segment. Clark, thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Godspeed. Check out Digital Recruiter. It works, people. It
Godspeed.
works. It works. Let's move on to Alin. There she is.
Here I am.
Here I
I
am.
was yawning a second ago. That was bad. I was like,
Well, it was. I got to say, first of all, how are we physically feeling? We're checking with everyone that was at HR Tech.
you know what? I am in such a state of overwhelm at the moment. I don't even know. Yeah, I landed back at the house. I passed out for like a day and a half. I told nobody to bug me. And now I am in a serious mode getting ready for Melbourne. So yeah, I'm just it's craziness.
When's Australia? When is that?
It's next week. So
Oh, man.
I'm out of here for it's like a 26-hour flight.
Jeez. Hopefully, Smart Recruiters bumps you up to at least business class.
Yeah. Well,
we will see about that. Well, first I gotta say it was great to meet in person.
It was.
I had a fantastic time over at the Smart Recruiters booth. I had an opportunity to interview your new CEO, Rebecca Carr. We had a fantastic conversation. Got to meet the team. Went to Winston House, which was a lot of fun. Are we allowed to talk about that?
We are. Now you can.
Oh, now you could talk about it. So let's get your hot takes. Give us the good, the bad, and let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of HR Tech.
Okay.
And we won't name and shame, but I think it's important too to not everything is perfect. So let's get into it.
Not everything's fabulous, but some things are. Listen, this was I felt like the energy level was higher this year. It was busy. And it wasn't just because I felt busy. I think the floor felt busy. There was kind of a frenetic energy going on. I think that was really super positive. So what I think is interesting about that is, at the same time, we are all hearing the stressors in the industry, and everybody's kind of feeling what's happening next. Where are we going? What are we doing? I feel at the same time, everybody was saying we're open for business and we're doing some shit. So I think that was interesting. Right. So there's a lot of movement going on. I think that was super cool. Maybe some people saw my post on it. I had a reflective moment shortly after. And I would say my biggest takeaway is same old, same old. So it was really busy and everybody's saying the same shit. Right. And I that bothers me as a
lot of AI chat.
That's right. As somebody who is instinctively looking for the next best thing and trying to innovate and grow. And especially when we have so many opportunities to do really cool stuff. I was concerned by the level of real innovation that I was seeing. And that I was seeing a lot of people using a lot of buzzwords. AI
buzzword bingo was in full effect.
Right. And listen, we all do it to a certain extent. I live in the marketing world, right? So I get it. We all use a few words here and there over and over again. But when you ask deeper questions and ask people to explain what they're talking about and they can't get there, they can't really explain how this is different or what it is that they're doing. It annoys me.
Or how they use the tech, right? Like how do you use the tech? Oh, great, you're saying AI, but A, do you need it? B, where's your data coming from and how are you implementing it? And please give me a case study of where this is working.
Right, exactly. And what's the intent, right? I mean, like, it's so great. Um, AI for AI's sake, I think is not necessarily the right answer for us. And that data question, if they can't answer that data question, like what's the intent behind that data? How is it serving their use cases? And particularly in the HR space, guys. So
Right.
listen, if
Where's it
you
coming from?
yeah, if you are in the HR tech space, if you're an HR practitioner, if you are a TA practitioner, the question you need to be asking yourself is not, do I need tech to support me? Yeah, you absolutely do. But what does that tech mean in terms of how you need to refine and redefine how you do business? What are the new use cases you're going to need to be prepared for? How are people going to expect to want to engage with you, whether they're your employees or your future employees or your stakeholders going forward, and are you prepared to do so? Because if you're relying on tech just to make you faster doing the same thing you're doing today, I don't think that's going to last. I think you're going to get left behind really quickly, because your stakeholders and users are going to start expecting and
Mhm.
operating with you in a different way, and if you can't do that, you're going to be in trouble.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the good, right? What were some of the
I know,
fun?
sorry,
Let's talk about
I
the
went right
fun.
to the bad.
No. But I think no. Here's the deal. I think
Yeah.
we need to not sugarcoat things. I think that the industry is ripe for innovation, and there's a lot of innovators out there, and they're trying to do things. But
Mhm.
we're in this area where we need to figure it out. And there's folks that are really doing it. There's folks that are trend followers, and they're
Mhm.
kind of riding the coattails. But let's talk about some of the good stuff that you saw there. We were
Yeah.
talking about it before, the Winston House, which we think was really cool for events like this, is to create smaller events within those events, more opportunities for intimate conversation where folks could really sit down and talk to each other in a quiet space. And that's what I really loved about Winston House. You had the bar, you had the little sitting area, and you could just sit down on the couch and chop it up with people, new friends, old friends. It's kind of a power play. And relatively speaking, from an execution standpoint, right, we're turning a suite into a pretty cool speakeasy.
Yeah, it was fun. It was great. And I think it was an experiment. We tried it out there. I'll tell you what, we initially sent out the invite to 15 of what I would consider kind of movers, people we've talked to. I've talked friends, right?
I feel
People
blessed.
we want
Danielle
to have
feels
good,
blessed.
yeah, people we want to have good conversations with, and it spread fast. That room was having, because people wanted just to sit back and relax and talk, and have an environment to do so. And that was the important part of it. We wanted to spark no predefined agenda.
No.
Let's see what happens. But some of the best conversations happen sitting on the couch or around the table with people have a drink in their hand, and they can throw their feet up for a minute and relax and be done running
And
around
feel
trying to
comfortable.
feel. You be comfortable,
Right.
right?
And that's the thing too. Like I love a good happy hour, a good happy hour. But
Mhm.
again, you're on your feet, you're schmoozing, and if you're not fully extroverted, it's overwhelming. It's sensory overload too. There's a lot of people talking to you, but when you're in an environment like Winston House, which is essentially
Mhm.
a really nice suite, and there's couches and you could chill, you could relax for a minute, and people could come to you. You could go up to them, and it's a little bit it disarms you from a lot of the social fears that a lot of people have at these networking events.
Right, right. Actually, it was and born from my own innate introvertness,
Hmm.
right? So
I wouldn't even tell that.
I'm deeply introverted.
So it's hard.
Yeah,
Let's have a real conversation about that, because
yeah.
being introverted is not a disadvantage in
No.
general. But when you're in a sales position, a marketing position, you have to find a
Mhm,
way to bring that out,
mhm.
and you find techniques where you're like, hey, this is just my time to shine. I'm working. I'm going to step it up. And maybe
That's
other
right.
times in my personal life, I could be a little bit more, introverted too. How do you kind of manage that? How do you bring your own energy level up, or how do you like, what are some of your tips to step outside of your comfort zone if you're introverted at these events and you got to get down to business?
Yeah. So I'll tell you what. I'm going to do this by telling a story of one of my very
It's
first
story
industry events.
time.
So it was one of my very first industry events. It was a candy event, one of the Candy Experience Awards events. I was working at Intel, and they sent me to go to it. And I showed up at the event, and it was, the happy hour, cocktail hour, and you had to
Mhm.
go. Or I felt like I had to go because I was on the company dime. And I walked in, and it was full of like table games, right? Like these big huge Jenga games and
Oh,
everything.
cool.
And it sounded cool. Everybody knew each other, and they're all standing around chit chatting and playing these big games. And I was petrified. The first thing I did was grabbed a glass of wine and walked over to the closest wall I could find and stood there with my
Wallflower alert.
so serious wallflower alert, and had to give myself this pep talk to say, just, it's okay. You can do it. Just go talk to one person. Just go talk to one person. And I couldn't do it. I could not get myself out of it. What happened is actually Kevin Grossman came up and said hi, because we had been on some emails previously, and I think obviously it was his event and he was feeling nice, and he came over and said hi, and we started a simple conversation. And I quickly learned that these events are not about how are you perceived by the large audience that is there. How do you find that one person, that one or two people that you maybe know from an email, or from a Slack channel, or from a
Right.
LinkedIn connection, and they're as nervous as you are usually. Just go have one conversation. That conversation leads to the next conversation, the next conversation, the next conversation. So why does HR tech work well for me as an introvert, and what is my advice in that space? I've made a lot of friends by having one-off conversations. So now I go to these events and they don't feel like big, scary moments for me, because I'm connecting with people that I know or that I have some relationship with. And that's the key. If you're going to be in that space, figure out who's your safe space, find it really quickly, and then build out from there.
I love it. So, Elena, I want to wish you a great trip to Australia, Down Under. What do you got going on there? Let's give a quick shout out, and then tell everyone where they can find you and can connect.
Yeah, so it's our second of this year, Hiring Success, Smart Recruiters Hiring Success Conference in Melbourne. It's going to be huge. I expect a little over 400 people in the door. And we're going to be really going deeper into Smart Recruiters 3.0 in preparation for, drum roll everybody, the most exciting piece is, if you're going to be in Unleash in Paris, or you're interested in following along on October 16th, the Big Bang happens.
Boom.
Winston comes back from space, and we have some new things to share. So I'm super excited.
Ooh, that's exciting. And if anyone's out there, please check out Elaine in Melbourne and in Paris too. Elaine, I want to thank you so much. Thank you to our friends over at Smart Recruiters. It's been a pleasure. Elaine, safe travels.
Absolutely. Talk to you soon.
Adam.
Where's KJ? KJ, what's happening?
What's up? How are you?
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Why don't you do us all a favor and tell everyone who you are and what you do best?
Sure. I think I was called a dinosaur in this industry, but when I meet a lot of other people, I don't think I am. I've been in this talent acquisition space, in the space of online recruitment since the days Monster was very early in the picture, right?
Well, you're old school.
Old school, yeah. And back in the day, I started my career when people were still using paper resumes.
So you're dating yourself, KJ. That's okay.
And yeah, I don't look that old, I guess. I'm dating myself. But over a period of time, I've seen the transformation. But this time, my experience has always been global, bringing all that insights to the US leaders. So I've seen firsthand what's happening around the world. And that was the genesis of my first startup, a company called Mobolt, which optimized the talent experience, the candidate experience in the job application process. It was the first ever acquisition by Indeed, and then thereon worked at Indeed in the product leadership roles. And before I started Jovi about 6-7 years back.
So tell us what you guys do over there. What's the product? What's the differentiator? Why do people need it?
It's a simple thing, right? It's like companies are spending, if I'm not wrong, the top 250 enterprise companies in the US are spending about $3 billion in talent acquisition, recruitment, marketing. And this is just on the job boards, right? I believe at least 50%, if not more, could be saved if they use what they have currently in house. If they could use their career site in a much more effective fashion, if they could use their own database,
right,
with a lot of smartness, right? Matching the right candidates, engaging them the right things. Nowadays, people don't even respond to candidates, right? Like that's how bad the problem is.
That is a problem.
Yeah, and on top of that, if they can buy from the job boards in the right way, right? Some job just don't do a spray and pray. Put the right job, have the right content at the right location, right language, and you can start getting a lot more ROI from the spend that you currently have. So if you do all of these things right, you can see a lot of savings. That's what we do.
Let's talk about companies' internal job boards. Why do you think they're an underutilized resource?
I think so. Companies own job boards, right? That's what we call as a job site, the area where they go in and job seekers search for jobs. Uh, First of all, I would say they're not truly personalized.
Hmm.
And when we say personalization, it is in a very half-hearted fashion.
Hmm.
The second thing I would say is there's a lot of SEO optimization that can happen so that Google can send a lot of direct traffic to you, not sending it to other job boards and who are selling it to you, right? You can do a lot of that. You can make it really conversational, really, really intelligent, right? The tone of voice. You see chatbots are very fixed, regimented, branch tree network kind of a framework, uh, which is not okay, right? You can have a true intelligent conversation, help a job seeker not just find the right job for that person through the match, but also help the job seeker apply to that job in a very easy fashion instead of taking them to a very painful process of applying through forms and whatnot. So I think there's a time when everything was bespoke, right? When it was done about 6 years back. Then came the age of CMS, right?
Hmm.
Sites were built, and they were built as an application, right? But there was no intelligence built into it. Now with AI coming in, people are forcing intelligence into application. It's like AI is a force fit. It's not
Interesting.
ground up as AI first in the code and the application around it. Like I can ask you a simple question: Can you create a career site with just a prompt? You can,
If done the right way, right?
done the right way, but you have to think like that. You cannot force fit AI into an application, otherwise you're
I,
just showing off that you have AI.
I think the problem is that people tend to outsource before looking internally first. We have this job board, we have the data. Maybe it's a simple tool, simple application, a simple fix where we can maximize it and make it so much stronger than paying and outsourcing for these job boards. How do you utilize SEO to drive inbound traffic to that versus utilizing an outsourced platform or technology?
Correct. Yeah, everything is outsourced, and the more tools you add, the higher is the chance of failure, the lesser is the output, right?
What?
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, KJ, what do you think is most broken in this overall hiring process?
God, uh, I would say, see, it's a oxymoronish thing, right? It's people say candidate experience is the most broken. It is, without a doubt, but that's also being the most talked about. But people confuse candidate experience with the look and feel. People confuse candidate experience with am I writing the right kind of content, which is neutral from a diversity and other standpoints. But I don't think that is candidate experience. I think people confuse UI with UX, user interface with user experience, and user experience means least amount of friction in anything you do. If you look at difference between Apple and Samsung, it's a difference between experience, right? You can give a iPad to someone who's never used a device,
Don't know
and
how to do it. Yeah.
they will know how to do it. That's what experience is. So I think that's where the difference
Hmm.
is. Why is it that people, I'll ask you a simple question, even today, 100 people click on wanting to apply to a job, only on average 5 end up applying to a job. The 100 people who started the process, are they not interested? Is really, do you the one of the questions I asked long time back to talent acquisition practitioners: please go and apply to your own job in your own company.
Always apply. See what that experience is like, right? See what they're going through. See how the response rates are. I think I saw something in the news the other day. The entire TA team was fired because someone applied internally at a job. I think it was like a director to show everybody that they got auto rejected. Like something's not working. You guys are not. You're not doing it right. Listen, there's a lot of tools, a lot of things. So let's synthesize it. Why is your product, your company, a necessity to help fix what's broken in this industry?
That's a very interesting thing. We don't believe in tool fatigue. I have spoken to so many TA,
Hmm.
and like they're saying, I don't want to buy another tool. You may have this. I'll give you a simple thing. Even before I started my career in this industry, there was an applicant tracking system, right? There have been multiple levels of applicant tracking systems, CRMs that came in, and even today, the NPS score is minus 50 or worse across the board, no matter how great it is. Recruiters are being thought of as like a dumping ground of all the tools that you send it to them. And now they're talking about co-pilots, and there's another way of dumping the things on them. The way our tool is different is let's say you have 100 recruiters in your company or 100 sources in the company. We are your 101st, or the one extra source or recruiter without a face. We are behind the scenes. We give you automatically for all your job postings X number of applications. We will deliver as many applications, engaged applications, as all your recruiting team put together without asking the recruiters to do anything. It's the AI that is driving all of these things. And of course, recruiters will do what they have to do. They have to talk to the candidates, right? They do what they're best in doing, right? Selling. Recruiters are nothing but salespeople in the companies, right? At the end of the day, that is what their job is. So I think our tool does everything behind the scenes, delivers the results, makes sense of the data, and automatically activates, creates campaign to deliver.
Interesting. Well, KJ, this is interesting. Where could folks learn? Where could they check out the product? Where could they see more?
Joey.com. Everything is there. We have hundreds of case studies.
Let's link it up on the bottom, guys.
Yes.
Let's link it up. Well, KJ, I want to certainly appreciate you and your time. Thank you for joining us on the HR Morning Show. We appreciate you. Look forward to connecting and learning more. And thank you so much for your insights into the process.
Thank you, Adam.
Take care. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Well, we wouldn't be here without our friends over at ERIN. And guess what?
ERIN.
Let's give a shout out to ERIN, Mike, and the team. By the way, Mike Greenberg, it was great to hang out with you this weekend. And I know that I'm your lucky charm. He did okay at the tables there, unless you're the IRS listening over here, which you're not. And for those of you who are not familiar with ERIN, ERIN is a premier employee referral and internal mobility software platform. ERIN increases your employee referral hires for non-desk and corporate employees by 5x and decreases turnover by over 50%. You could also check out ERIN 5.0, new features designed to make finding the right job instantaneous. Submitting a referral as simple as sending a text, chat, or Slack, and deliver the success metrics you need to operate a world-class employee referral program. So check out ERIN if you want to take your employee retention and referrals to the next level. And if you want some of this ERIN swag that Danielle and Joel are rocking right here, drop a purple Acorn square in the chat. We'll message you, get your info, and do it all. So, ERIN, thank you so much for your support. Let's keep the show moving.
Hello, folks. All right, this is very exciting because I got to record IRL with our friend Mervin. Usually, you're used to seeing us on X to Z, our fun segment, bringing two generations together to talk about a spicy topic. And this week, we're going to be showing you a little bit of the IRL recording that we did at HR Tech. So enjoy.
In the Mandalay Bay Hotel.
In the Mandalay Bay. Hey, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good, thank you. I've been here for 2 or 3 days now, and so I'm kind of into the Vegas kind of scene. It's my 11th year at HR Tech. It's one of my favorite events. Wow. And it's your first time at a big kind of tech expo like this, isn't it?
It's practically your bar mitzvah for HR Tech, and
Yes.
It's my first time. I'm being born into this world. It's pretty crazy. You should have seen my face when I entered the expo hall. It was jaw on the floor. Really, I had no idea what I was walking into. But it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. How is this one different?
I think this one, there's quite a good buzz about it. I think obviously I can think of the post-COVID years, because obviously 2020, 2021, it didn't happen. 2022 was quite small. And last year felt like it was coming back to kind of like 2017, 18, 19, when it was probably as big as you saw yesterday. In fact, yesterday might have been even bigger, I think, because obviously there's been a bigger proliferation of tech startups and things over the last few years, all vying for space. But no, it's got, I mean, the event has a real energy. You know, you can't not be kind of enthused as you walk around the floor. Everybody is keen to show you what they've got. And I was doing analyst briefings, so one-to-one briefings with some of the smaller tech companies, finding out what they're doing. And yeah, there's some great stuff coming down the track to make the workplace experience better.
And you came from another conference last week.
I did. I was at a conference in Salt Lake City called Influence Greatness, which is hosted by a company called O.C. Tanner. And that very much is about recognition, recognizing people, helping create a workplace environment that supports and enables. Recognition is one of those areas, and I think, you know, I'd like to touch on this a bit with you today, that's really grown over the last few years, the concept of kind of recognizing people at work. I mean, recognition when I started work was you got paid at the end of the month or the week. They recognize you by doing that. But, you know, I mean, even then, kind of, you know, your boss would say, well done, you know, you worked well this week or something. You'd have those little things that will make you feel good. But recognition, there's so much data now about what it means to people in so many things other than how they're doing in the workplace, to do with their mental health, to doing with their well-being, to doing with how they feel they're performing, making a contribution. It's become a lot more important. So during our chat today, I'd like to get your Gen Z take on all of that at some stage.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I feel like recognition and feedback are super related, right? First you get recognized and then maybe you get feedback or vice versa, and then maybe something happens, right? Like the goal of recognition, like in your mind, what is that?
The goal of recognition in the workplace is to make you feel part of the workplace, to recognize the fact that you have made effort, you have contributed something positive. You could have gone the extra mile, you could have done something above what was expected, or just you've done something well. And I think it's, I suppose appreciation is, rather than recognition, if we call it appreciation. So, you know, it's like, well, you obviously don't work for a large organization, but if you did, and you gave a session here, it's, you know, your boss might be here and he might drop you a little note and say, Danielle, that was a great presentation you did, really proud of you, really pleased. And there is a lot of data out there from certain companies that will show the impact that has on people in the workplace, their sense of feeling and belonging to the workplace, their sense of they're more likely to feel that they're thriving and doing well in the organization as opposed to just surviving. They're more likely to recommend it as a good place and to feel that they work in a good place that supports them.
I feel as like my relationship with recognition is that I've always wanted, I mean, everyone has different love languages, right? And I think that's an important consideration that maybe we don't talk about enough. In my opinion, I think we tend to stay away from the word love at work, and I don't know why. It's a little bit taboo, but we all have different love languages, and one of mine is, you know, verbal recognition. What's the word? Verbal affirmation. Words of affirmation. Okay, there we go. And so when I am recognized through the power of language, and for me, words matter a lot. And so when I'm recognized, and let's take your example, if I were at a big company and I were here and I showed up and my goal was to mix and mingle and to make a great impression and to maybe build some community and some connections. If my boss were to say, oh, you're doing a great job, it's kind of like, okay, thanks, but I tell myself that in the mirror. Like, let's go a little bit deeper. Let's get a little bit more specific. Let's have a little bit more language and sort of like make me feel something. That's what I feel like. That's the purpose of recognition for me, is to make me feel like I'm seen, like I'm recognized for all of the skills that I bring to, like, my energy, like everything about it. And if someone's not able to recognize that in that specific way, it kind of doesn't mean anything to me.
I think that the kind of recognition I was talking about, for example, where I was last week, would be just like that. It wouldn't just be well done. It would be a reason. It would be for something specific. It was, you know, you really showed up there, you really impressed that person. The presentation you gave was excellent. People really liked it. Thanks, well done. That kind of thing. Being specific. Now, I suppose one of the concerns in the AI-driven age is that it might we might enter an age where your boss would say, "Can you just send Daniel a message telling us she did good?" And the AI will message you, say, "Hi, you did really good." That is a danger. I think that the tech companies, there aren't very many here who specialize in kind of recognition, appreciation and stuff. AI is embedded there, but I think it's more as a prompt, not as a getting like ChatGPT to write something for you. It's kind of to say, are you sure you don't want to say more? Or are you sure you don't want to thank them for something specific? You know, that kind of thing.
To help you.
Yeah.
I see one of the challenges potentially with that being that Gen Z is so able to sniff out BS. I would say that it worries me, right? It's like if I get a low level response and I know it was written by AI, that's almost even worse than getting no response at all or no recognition at all. And obviously people say, oh, it's a thought that counts. But if the thought is so low level effort that you're saying into your phone for like 5 seconds, oh, send Danielle something that she did good. Like, really?
But you won't know that.
Feedback. Like, you my manager.
You won't know that that's how it originated.
That's my point, is that we're able to sniff that out. So these tools need to be good enough that it actually feels like a human response, which in many cases, by the way, for example, with HR chatbots and how, you know, Olivia is one of them, but I worked at Wade and Wendy before that, before Olivia was sort of the big player in this space. And I've been having conversations about chatbots in recruiting this week, seeing a lot of those Wade and Wendy people, and one of the things that's come up is that Wendy, the recruiter, the AI chatbot, felt like a real person. And the scripts were written by a real writer, like show writer, versus a lot of the maybe scripts now being written by AI or being written by a coder or an ML engineer. Like it has to.
Awesome. Well, I hope you enjoyed that part of the conversation. The full episode, full segment will be posted on YouTube, so you can go and watch that a little bit later. But let's get back to the show and let's bring on Serge with the weather.
Wow, nice, huh? All right, let's jump into the HR weather. And today's forecast is all about boomerang employees. So for those of you who don't know what a boomerang employee is for those folks that left your company then eventually came back. And this trend was really big during the Great Resignation. I think we all know folks that job hopped only to realize that the forecast wasn't as sunny as they thought it would be somewhere else. Then eventually we saw that spike of people returning to their old employers, and the old employers really welcomed them back. And to be honest, boomerang employees are really a breath of fresh air for talent acquisition folks plus companies because they are cheaper and faster to rehire. There's no need for external agencies or advertising. They already know your culture. So if you have crappy culture, they already know about it. So that's great. If it's great, right? But my favorite is there is no need for those long interview process that everyone hates. Plus, onboarding is really a breeze, which can be a challenge for a lot of new folks joining companies. So right now, the data shows that boomerang employees account for around 4% of all hires. I think it should be way higher than that. But to be able to execute on that, you do need a strategy. And I think the biggest part of your strategy, you should have consistent communication with those ex-employees that left that you felt great about to let them know that the door is always open to come back. The other thing I suggest is definitely an alumni network with constant meetups, with different communications, and really updates on your company to keep them engaged with what's going on there. So when they're like maybe not as happy at their old job or their current job, they're like, yeah, maybe I should reach out to them and see what's going on, because actually it wasn't that bad. So right now, if boomerang employees are not a part of your talent strategy, you got to change that, because bringing back some familiar faces can be win-win, rain or shine. That's the HR weather. Let's get back to the panel.
Well, speaking of weather, I mean, it was pretty hot in Vegas last week, right? What do we do to stay cool out there, Serge?
Well, we did a couple things, right? We went outside a couple times,
We beat that casino heat by going outside into that Vegas dry. Yeah.
Well, it was great to not replace. I could never replace both of you, Adam and Danielle, but I had to carry Joel for a whole week, so that was pretty good.
You did a
Dude,
great. You did a great job. I mean,
carry the weight of this guy on your shoulders, and it was appreciated. You crushed it.
What was?
So what do you guys think of boomerang employees? Should it be part of a strategy?
I think so.
Should
I
it be
see a lot.
something-
I see a lot of it, and I work in advertising and media. I see so many employees that are boomerang more than you. I think. I mean, I don't have a good barometer like that weather. I don't have a good barometer for other industries, but when I speak about recruiting for marketing, media, ad tech, martech, I see a decent amount of people that have worked somewhere for a couple of years and they go somewhere for a short stint. And they realize that the grass was not greener, and they come crawling back.
Well, it's why it's so important not to burn those bridges, right? With
Yeah.
relationships. And I think in most of these markets, it's smaller than you think. And now obviously with like the digital relationships as well, it's even smaller. So I don't know like how you necessarily add that into the strategy. I guess if as a recruitment agency partner, I'd probably ask like, are there people that you maybe have worked there in the past that you might consider again? Maybe that would be a good question to ask. So yeah, I'm curious about how you would like add that in your recruitment strategy.
Well, one of the things I've seen is, talent communities, like keeping people updated through newsletters and community stuff like that. I think one of the biggest probably strategies is just don't treat people like shit. And they'll maybe want to come back at some point.
That's a good one.
Like give them a good severance package, give them resources if you're laying them off. I think a lot of the time companies kind of sleep on the offboarding strategy, and I think that actually is one of the most crucial parts of the employee journey at this point, because so much of people applying to jobs, people wanting to work for certain companies, is based on their own network and what people have to say about those companies. So, in my opinion, that's actually an area of HR tech that I'm excited to see more innovation.
That's a really good point. Offboarding really sets the stage for the future. What's your take, Danielle, on the employee side, someone looking for a job? How do you make sure that you don't burn any bridges? Obviously, we know the obvious things that you shouldn't do, but any advice for those job seekers when they're looking at the older companies they worked at?
I mean, I would just say, like, probably don't disparage the company you worked for publicly. I think one of the things that is maybe going to hurt people in the end is, if you're filming yourself getting laid off on TikTok and you post that publicly, that's probably going to burn a bridge.
Dang.
That's gonna burn
Spicy.
multiple bridges.
Did she
And
ever get a job? So that lady that
so
filmed
I
herself,
think so. She did.
did she?
Yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah.
knew like 6 months after she
She was
put
still
out
looking.
another TikTok saying, I just can't find anything. And then definitely that video did not help.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a tough job market. It should have been live stream. I think live stream firing would be way better. Like
I'm into
interacting
that.
with people.
I'm
Yeah.
into that.
Next time I'm fired, that's what I'm doing.
Serge, what do you got coming up? What's next for you in the horizon?
Well, there is a ton going on in my world, but I'm not traveling until next year. So I'm excited. And it was great to see all of you definitely at HR Tech. And I've been doing the shows for a long time. And Joel, it was a great show, but you can't do each one is the advice that I give you
Yeah.
because you'll definitely burn out. So
Yep, you got it. You got to switch up. I mean, I sat out RecFest. Joel covered on that one, so we divide and conquer. Someone from Purple Acorn will be at everything. Serge, I want to thank you. Check out Serge. He's our weatherman du jour. Catch him every Tuesday morning here on the HR Morning Show. Serge, thank you as
Thanks, Serge.
always. Let's keep it moving. So this is another fun segment.
Alex Murphy in the house. Welcome, Alex. How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you doing, Joel?
Hey, doing well. It's been a while since we've connected. Why do you get everybody up to speed? If they don't know who you are, who is Alex Murphy? What is JobSync? Get us up to speed.
So, I'm the CEO and co-founder of JobSync. We have a software platform that sits between companies' ATSs, primarily big complicated ones like Workday, SuccessFactors, and Oracle, and all of the media that companies use to find and attract people to become applicants. We help streamline the process for both applicants and for recruiters, and the net result is companies end up getting anywhere from 2 to 3 times more applicants for those hard to fill roles. Kind of think about the little squirrels grow up after eating purple acorns into becoming purple squirrels. We help solve that problem.
I love that. I love that. And we'll get into HR tech as well. But real quick, what's some surprising data that you found in terms of really optimizing this candidate experience when it comes to applying for jobs? What are some of the notable stats that you've seen, and why it's really important that companies streamline this process?
Yeah, so people in marketing really have a strong understanding, like consumer-based marketing in particular, have a strong understanding around how time kills opportunities.
Yeah.
And so, the interesting stats are things like how long it takes to actually respond back to a candidate, or the extra steps, commonly referred to just as extra clicks, that people have to take in order to apply. So, most people today are expecting a consumer grade experience, something that's like an Amazon like experience. And so the kind of typical candidate experience where a person has to go to an applicant tracking system in order to apply, they have to create an account. They have to do that over and over and over again. And so, maybe the most notable statistic that's kind of nauseating is that the average person getting a job applies to over 100 different jobs in order to get that offer. And so, I think it's really important in the world of HR and the world of TA to really put yourselves empathetically in the shoes of the candidate, to understand, like, they're not just applying to your job. They're not watching your videos. They're not like doing the deep research until you engage with them. And so making that first overture, that first point of engagement be as simplistic. Like, you need to be able to get information and get answers to screening questions so you can discern between who is and is not an appropriate person to follow up with. But making that process be as simple as possible is super, super important. And, like, bizarrely, like, the candidate experience still is
Still,
really arduous with lots of extra steps, and conversion rates are, for most companies, somewhere between 1 and 7% of those people that start the journey to try to apply actually complete the application, which is abysmally low.
it's honestly, it's mind blowing to me that in this day and age with technology, and we talk about this AI innovation, candidate experience just seems to be the thing that just gets dropped all the time. And it's, I obviously create a lot of content on platforms like TikTok. So I see a lot of people that will jump on TikTok or they'll jump on Instagram and they will document how terrible the job search process is. And it's been like that for years. But still, it just does not seem to be a priority. So I'd love to get into like why that is. But HR tech, you're a HR tech. So what was JobSync up to? What were you up to? What were the highs and the lows for you? Would love to hear what you guys were up to.
Yeah, so it's interesting because it was a really fascinating week for us. I had spent we had a stand at the prior week at Workday Rising,
Oh
so
yeah.
we really had that kind of as a juxtaposition,
Was that a slow
literally in the
moving
same
conference, by
room.
the way, or like how did you have to like scan your badge like 15 times to get into that one?
No,
Work day job joke.
so yeah, like it's not like you're out like the Workday application at all. It's actually quite exactly the opposite. The conference at the Workday conference was kind of remarkable. Somewhere around 20,000 attendees, 18,000 of them being Workday users, all there trying to learn and engage and find solutions. Um, HR tech is quite different in that it's a show as a vendor in the space. It's a show that's for us to be able to engage with analysts in bulk, right? So 50 plus analysts. We had our team had a large number of meetings, got a tremendous amount of feedback from the community, a really big number of investors. So HR Tech they kind of peeled away the investor community from the exhibit hall, made their own kind of parallel investor summit, but that had reportedly over 250 investors at it. So that's kind of neat to have all those people kind of as a big splash there. And then there's obviously a ton of partner opportunities on the floor. There are over 600 different exhibitors. It's kind of funny. I kind of felt like when standing in the exhibit hall, it was so compressed. The aisles were skinnier, the booths were taller, the stuff hanging from the ceilings were coming all the way down to the ground. It felt like we were kind of standing in a NASCAR, advertisement almost, because you had logos everywhere. And so it was fun to connect and see people. I lost my voice. Haven't gotten it back 5 days later. Maybe that has something to do with staying up until 2 o'clock in the morning, too many days.
Maybe.
So a lot of fun, a lot of great connections out there for sure.
I love it. Well, Alex, where can people find out more about you? Where can they find out more about JobSync? Where's the best place to connect?
Yeah, so on LinkedIn, I'm Alex Murphy, or A Murphy 59 is the profile, and then certainly come to jobsync.com.
Awesome. Well, guys, go to jobsync.com, connect with Alex as well. And Alex, hopefully we'll be able to meet up at one of these next conferences and finally meet in real life. But great to see you. Great to hear from you as well.
Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, let's move on to the next segment here.
Yeah, Daniela also caught up with another special guest in Vegas, Darian from Qualify. Let's check it out.
I'm Danielle from Purple Acorn, and I'm here with Darian from Qualify, CEO and co-founder. Yeah, right?
Yep.
CEO and co-founder.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, I'm blessed. And we're here to talk about HR tech. We're in the Fountain Suite. Welcome.
Yeah.
How you doing?
I'm doing
How
good.
you feeling?
I'm doing good. Feeling good.
We woke up in Vegas today.
We did. Yeah, I'm having a good time. It's
Pretty cool.
It's my first time at HR Tech, so
Okay, First Timers Club.
let's do it.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Whew. What do you think? What was your first thought when you walked into the expo hall?
So there's a lot of people here. I knew like there was a lot of other tech companies in general, but I didn't realize how big like the ecosystem is, and I know there's even more companies that I know personally that aren't here too. So I know it's even bigger than like what's on the expo floor.
Thousands.
So yeah.
My first thought was, holy crap, I can't believe people spend money on this.
Yeah, that was another thought for sure. I'm like, where's
Because like you walk in and there are these huge, like Rippling has like this huge custom built like little pod room. I'm like, it's crazy. Workday has a full-on bus where they have a podcast studio inside. I'm like, I didn't even know that was possible. It's very cool.
Yeah.
And so far, so you're here to focus on, what's your goal of HR Tech?
Honestly, my team has like came and I think we probably had like a startup booth before, but I didn't come to that trip. There's a lot of folks that I know just through the 6 years of building Qualify that I haven't had a chance to meet in person, and the ones that I have, a lot of them are here. So it's just kind of, catching up with friends in the industry, and then like building, starting, and kind of maintaining partnerships that we have in the ecosystem already. So
love that. And Fountain is a partner of yours?
Yeah, Fountain's a partner of ours, and
shout out Fountain.
we're getting things rolling now. So it's like cool to like be here and hopefully get to meet more folks that I haven't met yet.
So cool. Have you been to Vegas before?
I have, but I'm here for like 3 quick days in and out, and I think that's enough time.
How are you spending your nights?
Last night I was just in my room, honestly. I was supposed to go to some of the events that were happening. But I ended up like 2 miles away and walked from I think what was it from the
You
lake.
did a Vegas track.
Yeah,
You did a
basically.
track.
And so I ended up walking from. It took like an hour to get home, and I was like, you know what? I'm tired. I'm just gonna stay in. I'm just gonna stay in and watch TV.
Wow, wait,
So
where are you from?
I live in Indiana.
Indiana. So they don't party in Indiana.
I'm sure they do, but I try to keep it low key. I
Okay.
live out in the burbs and
That's fair.
just
That's
hang out
fair.
with my
I'm
family.
a
So
city girl, so I come alive at night.
I
Okay?
feel that. I feel that. So
that's
this is
the
so
vibe.
hopefully you're having a good time.
I am.
Yeah.
I've done very little sleep, but coffee in my veins.
Yeah.
So
they're pumping oxygen.
tell
in
me
here,
more
so,
about Qualify and how you partner with different companies that maybe we could find at HR Tech.
Yeah. So yeah, we tend to focus on the screening side of the TA function. So at the top of the funnel, our kind of bread and butter is on the phone interview. So we help automate the phone interview step in the hiring process. We also have scheduling and live video interviewing. I like to tell it as we take you from the first interview through the last interview as fast as possible. And so we typically plug into ATS systems. Fountain's a great partner because they're focused on high volume, which is an area that we are highly focused in on as well. But it's either folks that we can be complementary with or from a product standpoint are complementary in terms of shared clients or shared opportunities that we can work on together. So
what's some of the cool, have you seen any of like the tech on the expo floor?
Yeah, that was part of it too. So like relationships, partnerships, then also kind of like scoping out some of the newer competition, like what's popping up.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to get a lay of the land on like who's here, what are people up to. I've talked to like some of my competitors.
Did you square up with one of your competitors?
Almost all of them, honestly. Like just being a founder, I like to talk to other founders. So some of them are here, and actually had one of my like best and longest conversations with kind of a new competitor, and just seeing like how they're thinking about things, how they approach things, and sometimes competition can be friendly competition.
Yeah. Best way to approach those conversations is just to ask them questions and to just let them talk.
Exactly. And I'm pretty open too. And
that's nice.
Yeah, the thing about being in this space is I know the challenges that you're going to, I've been in it too, so I know the challenges that you're probably facing. So
what is one of the coolest pieces of tech that you've seen so far? It doesn't have to be related to Qualify, but it can, like in terms of, potential partners in the future, but like, what are you impressed by?
I think one of the things that I don't know if it's like the most impressive. The first thing that came to mind though is just different angles of benefits that I hadn't thought about. Like I think the name of the company is Win, and they had emailed me before this, like a lot of vendors, but I think that their focus is on like exiting employees. So like this wave of like people being like offboarding, like this wave of layoffs or just like retirement, like what does it look like to treat your employees well? Even
a lot of boomers are retiring.
Yeah.
Thank God. I'm just kidding.
After your last segment, right?
Yeah. Guys, save me.
But yeah, so that was the first thing that came to mind. Is interesting.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining.
Absolutely.
This is awesome. You're awesome. Keep building Qualify. I mean, we desperately need help with hiring, and have a great rest of your time at HR Tech.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
I think you can hear that on the live. Now we're on stage. HR Pause, my favorite segment of all. And who do we have? Who do we have this week? But Betty. I mean, come on.
Her name's Betty.
Betty
is that a pug? What is that? Is that a pug?
It's a smug.
A smug. Tell me more.
A smug is a New York pug.
A New York pug. I love that.
Oh, Frenchie.
Well,
I always get the two confused.
It's a French.
All right. Well, on a cuteness factor, what are we going for here? Like 1 through 10. What would you say, Danielle?
You?
No,
5.
Becky. for Adam, we
Very
gotta give
cute.
it a 10. 10.
I love the smushed face kind of look. When
God, I love a Frenchie dog.
So cute.
Whose pet is Betty, by the way? Anyone know?
Betty is
Come Come on, backstage crew, let me know.
Producers.
I don't hear.
Producers.
Whose dog is Betty? This week's dog is Betty, a random dog we found on the street. All right. No,
if we're getting desperate, I have a dog. All right, but anyway, so this.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we'll have to do. My dog is called
Tosh.
Your
anyway,
dog needs to be paused.
Let's focus on Betty. So it's this section of the show, HR Pause, is sponsored by This Way Global and their new tool, Sully's Sandbox, which is a user-friendly interface to search and discover valuable data and AI solutions, but really does help your business. You can have access to these high-quality data sets. You can tap into trusted and secure data and AI solutions. So take a cue from Sully and come play in the sandbox. And if you want to schedule a demo, you know what to do. There's the QR code right over here. Just do the QR code thing. For all the boomers out there, you pull out your phone and take a picture of it, and it sends you to the link. But you can schedule your demo. You'll also be participating in This Way Global's Pause for Pause program, where they'll donate $100 to your favorite pet charity. So get in there, do that, and we'll have a new pet next week. Maybe my pet, but
what's Joel's dog?
Yeah. We'll get
Joel. What's your dog's name?
Vish. Yeah, Vish, because she's a Vish.
And to understand the reason why, you'll have to tune in next week.
Cliffhanger.
Teasers are what we're all about here, and you'll just have to come check us out, and you know where to find us.
I'll be tuning in from Florida.
Uh-oh.
Wait, are you with us next week or not?
I'm with you. I'm just going to be in Florida for the Jewish holidays.
You're a digital
Happy
nomad.
New Year.
Happy New Year to everyone out there.
Happy New Year. Jewish New Year.
Have a sweet and successful New Year. I'm looking forward. I love the Rosh Hashanah dinner. We have a big one coming up on Thursday in my family.
So exciting.
Nice.
Yep, that's what I'm going to Florida for. And I'll be with family for 12 days. I'm going to Florida. And then I'm headed to Tulsa for the Plugged In conference for remote work. And I'm going to be doing a keynote on how to get the most out of your Gen Z employees.
Ooh, interesting.
Is it just like is it just a bunch of like Zoom cameras faced each other? No one's actually.
Remote does not mean remote only, Joel. Come on.
Remote first. Well, that's going to be a good one. Next week, I'm going to be out and about in New York City for New York City Ad Week. I'll be out and about recording some content for the podcast and some other stuff. We're going to see what's happening in the ad world. So we're going to niche down back to what I love to do. We want to thank ERIN. We want to thank all of our other incredible sponsors. Stay tuned for Hire Her, a Talent Collective podcast every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific time on the East Coast. Find out more, head over to purpleacorn.io. Find us on Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Adam. She's Danielle. He's Joel. This is Purple Acorn Danielle HR Morning Show, and we are out.
See ya.
Later again.